Nice. All right, so let's talk about strings. We talked about buttons. We talked about blocking. I want to talk a little bit about how strings work in this game because I think this is the last sort of really important basic piece of the game to learn. So strings, again, they work very similar to Tekken. Basically, VF allows you to kind of mash your strings out however you want. Everyone has different strings and different combinations of buttons. Depending on what direction you push or what buttons you push in place. Typically, strings are three buttons or 3 moves in a row, starting off with the direction. But this is different for every character. So as you play, you'll learn. This is just some example of some of Blaze's strings. He's got good ones. PPPK is like the classic Virtua Fighter string from like VF1. PPPK into the circular, the high circular. I'm glad they gave Blaze that. But you get the idea. The cool thing about strings is that you can dial them in. So even though... Can I do the other? Yes, perfect. So even though I'm here kind of doing 3 kicks, I can mash the kicks. I can do 1,000,000 kicks, they'll still come out. Or I can just tap kick 3 times really fast and it'll still come out. So you can buffer your strings super fat, like super long. And just dial everything in if you wanted to. Like you see how quickly I'm not pushing buttons and the string's still coming out. So keep that in mind. You can dial everything in. The input buffer for this game is really lenient, and when you're doing strings, it shouldn't. The execution barrier is gone there. There's not a whole lot of timing based like stuff in this game other than doing hit throws. A lot of it is just dialing in strings. I think more so than the timing stuff. There's still timing stuff because VF has everything in it, but for the most part, especially as a beginner or somebody coming from Street Fighter, it's important to realize you don't have to link everything. You don't have to push the button at the right time to get a basic combo out. You can just dial it in and your strings will come out. The other important thing about strings to understand is that you can also guard cancel your strings. So let's say I want to do I want to do jab, medium punch, right? Like I showed you guys earlier, remember that? If I just do this without guard canceling, I'm going to get the second button of this string, right? Because the input buffer is really lenient, right? So what I have to do is guard cancel. So I'll do punch, guard, and then 6P. And that's how I cancel out of my strings. Works for everything, right? So if I want to do this kick, and I want to not do the last kick, I can guard cancel out of it. Even if I push kick 3 times, if I guard before the last kick, it won't come out. You see how that works? Same thing with certain buttons. You can just guard cancel the whole button, right? We talked about that a bit. So this string is a really good example of me being able to guard cancel a string. My PK, I can just guard cancel out of it, which most characters can do. And then, so yeah, keep that in mind. You can guard cancel out of everything, or you can dial it in. It's really up to you. Most common situation I'd say for guard canceling is wanting to get a jab into medium punch without having the second jab come out in your string. I can even guard cancel into the same button. Which some players in the community do this. That's really annoying. But if you think about how strong this is a plus on block move. It's one of the fastest buttons in the game. You can really hang somebody up doing guard cancel punch, whether they're trying to block or interrupt or anything. So, yeah, keep that in mind. Another thing about strings that's really important is you can delay them. So sure, you can delay them a lot in this game. You can delay them in Tekken, but it's even more in this game. It's actually a pretty standard part of the game. So if I do my basic 3K, if I mash it out, I'll get this. But if I wait, I can really delay this. Right? It's crazy, right? So why this is really good is because a lot of people are impatient, right? So they'll block the first 2 hits and then mash on the 3rd hit. Or and then the reason this is also good is because a lot of characters have launchers at the end of their strings. So Blaze, for example, if I do back kick, back KPP, or 4 KPP, I will get this launcher at the end. But I can really delay it. A lot of times what people will do is they'll think it's over, right? But I can still get that. I can still wait that long. And so most characters will have this. You know, they'll have some sort of delay situation. Strings are really cool and very useful in the game, and kind of dictate the flow of Virtua Fighter, which I think once you start understanding kind of how the game works and the power of strings of being able to delay them and cancel out of them, that is a lot of kind of the core of how this game is played. And so I want to talk about this kind of from a 2D fighter perspective. If you're coming from 2D fighters, 2D fighters are more, there's a lot more like waiting for the other person to do something, a lot more neutral, focused. There's a lot more moves that will kind of get you across the screen when the opportunity arises, right? I think that's kind of how a lot of these games are starting to be. Are set up, and you wait your moment, and then you kind of move across the screen. Virtua Fighter, it's more like you're taking turns. You're going back and forth. I think if you play a 2D fighter and you're in somebody's face, a really big difference is the fact that the more you push buttons and the more people block or get hit, the further they get pushed away, right? You can only do like 2 or 3 buttons before somebody is sort of out of range for more buttons for you to push. And that's kind of, in 2D fighters, you're like constantly kind of pushing away from each other. If that makes sense. The more you get hit, the more you get knocked down, the more your characters space out, and you have to close the space again. In 3D, it's the opposite. Every time you do an attack or a move, the pushback is not really a thing. The game's designed so that when you get a hit or you get a block or whatever, you're in someone's face. You do a regular string in Brian's face, or Brad's face, and I'm pretty close to him. Like I'm going to be pretty close, and he has an option to, do something as a result. He's still in range to do something, right? He's still in range to punish or take his turn. And a lot of times when you do a string, you're at a disadvantage. So you do a three, any button you do on a string, you're probably disadvantaged, but you do a 3 string all the way through, you're at a disadvantage. So I do this, it's Brad's turn, right? If I do this, I'm minus 13, but it's still Brad's turn. He can still close the distance. If I do, I'm minus 13, it's still Brad's turn. So the flow of the game will usually be, I do a string, you block it. You do a string, I block it. I do a string, you block it. And then, at that point, whatever that advantage is, I'm in your face, the decision's made there. Are you going to throw me? Are you going to go for another attack? Are you going to block? It's you're back to the triangle, but the triangle's in your face in this game. And I feel like for a lot of 2D players, it's really tough to get used to this because they're so used to making space and backing up and waiting for somebody to jump, waiting for their anti-air. This game is kind of 90% played in your face. There's still moments where you're going to be kind of, you know, full screen or backing up or trying to make space, trying to clear your head or trying to escape. But in a game without fireballs or projectiles to sort of, you know, close that distance or um, give you anything to do with that distance, you're always going to end up being right in front of each other again. So what I think that does for VF is it makes it a lot more fast-paced. You have to make decisions kind of a lot more quickly because you're always right in front of each other. And I think Tekken's very similar. Tekken, there's a lot more, I think, backdashing and making space and a little more craziness in that game where you can back up. But there's nothing in this game, right? There's no special moves, there's no bars, there's no fireballs. So if you're not punching someone in the face, like, or kicking somebody in the legs, like, you're not going to be able to do any damage to them. So let's keep that in mind. Something to think about as we transition from 2D to 3D, right? So the other important piece of this is going to be really, really useful for all you guys starting off with VF. It's very typical for strings to have 3 parts. So what most players will do at the beginning is they'll mash. So you can get away with like doing your string and having somebody get hit by part of the string. It's just gonna happen, especially with new players. You can do your string, they'll push a button, they'll get hit, you get your combo, you'll win the game. Some people are gonna wait for you to block. They're gonna wait for all 3 hits, and then they're gonna punish, right? So -15. If you do a string every time and they punish, you die. So what I do a lot of situations, instead of finishing the string, knowing that they're going to block, I'll just go for a throw. So I don't have to do all 3 hits. I'll just go for the throw on the second hit. Right? And then that's the mix-up. So either they don't push a button or they do. And if they're mashing, you don't have to worry about this. But if they are if they're just sitting there blocking, waiting, make them guess. This is so important, and every character has these strings, and every character is capable of this mix-up. So keep that in mind. There's really just 2 types of players. There's like really defensive players, and there's really aggressive players. And there's people who are going to mash everything. There's people who are just going to sit there. So you have to use this mix-up accordingly for each of those players. And I guarantee you, if you find someone who's mashing, you'll just be able to hit them with their strings and finish the round. If you find someone who's just sitting there, you'll be able to do this over and over again. String, or 2 buttons in a string throw, I guarantee it'll work over and over and over again against these people. So keep that in mind. We talked a lot about, like, you know, what kind of inputs you have, and every character is different, but I want to talk a little about combo structure in this game because this will allow you to get your damage and get you kind of beating people's butts. So typically everybody has a set of launchers. L Blaze's launcher is this. Puts you in the air, allows you to juggle, and the whole idea of a launcher is if they're not blocking, you're going to combo them. That's the whole idea. So Blaze's regular launcher is the knee, volcano knee or something, forward, K plus G. Every character has different launchers and different inputs, but this is L Blaze's. And typically, if you launch them in the air, they'll go flying and you can hit them with whatever inputs. The combos in this game are very fluid. You don't have to do you know, the same combo every time you get a launcher. You can do whatever buttons you want, whatever string you want. As long as they're still in the air, the game will allow you to sort of hit them and just do whatever you want. There are optimizations to this, but in the the name of the game here is once you hit a launcher, realizing that you got the launcher and trying to capitalize and get more damage. I see a lot of new players, they'll go for their launcher and they won't be ready for it. like mentally or physically, to capitalize on the damage. So one of the first things you're doing in this game should be thinking about that. Getting your launchers, even if you're just doing a basic string or a basic, mash string to get the damage out. Very important. There are also counter hit launchers in this game. So there are launchers that only work on counter hit. That means that they're doing something, the opponent's doing something crazy or pushing a button. The move will launch them in the air as well, and you get a combo. Typically, counter hit launchers are less unsafe. So they're safe on block, or they're completely safe on block, or they're a little less, punishable. This is Blaze's counter hit launcher. I'll show you what that looks like on counter hit. Boom. So now I get a full combo. So if you take a look at the frames here, if I do my knee, I'm minus 15. So launch punishable, not a button you want to do very often. But if I do the uppercut, minus 6. So, which I think is a nerf, but beyond that, you get the idea. And then the way VF's balanced, typically the normal hit launchers will give you more damage, they'll launch people higher than the counter hit launchers, which makes sense, right? You're taking a higher risk by throwing out your heavy launcher, and you're taking lesser risk by throwing out your counter hit launchers. So keep that in mind. I'll go into combo structure a little bit, but I just want to talk about like launchers in general. Typical combos have 3 parts to them. So you have your launcher. This is very similar to Tekken. Tekken has that like spin out thing or whatever it's called, tornado attack or whatever. VF has bounds. So first part of your attack will usually be a launcher, which is typically your biggest thing you have. You kind of hit launcher, puts them in the air. And then you'll extend it, usually, to some sort of extender. Even just a jab can be an extender, but certain characters have certain strings that are like better extenders than others. So Blaze, for example, will do just a really simple combo with Blaze will be launcher, extender, and then a bound, which Blaze's bound is this. Right? So I'll do launcher, extender, bound, and usually this will work. Yes. Boom, boom, boom. Right? So launcher, extender, bound, and then the last part of a combo is usually the ender. So typically Blaze's ender is kick, kick, kick. Different for every character. Very standard Blaze combo. And every character will have some sort of variation of this. You get your launcher, extender, bound, ender. I tend to dash forward a bit when I do my ender. So you'll have to do that with certain characters. If you want to look cooler, you can do crouch dash. But yeah, that's like basic combo structure. It's different for every character. But just remember that when you're working on your combos and building them, you can do your launcher into your ender. But if you want to get more damage, you're going to want to start learning your bound combos. But again, everyone just look at the command list and work on stuff. You'll see everyone has their launcher, everyone has their extender sort of strings, and everyone has their enders. Last thing I want to talk about with combos is the weight system. So there are different weight classes in the game, as sure as everyone's probably aware. Everyone has the same health. So every character, I believe, has 220 health. And there's no exceptions. Not like Street Fighter where everyone's got different health. The way that this is balanced is that everyone's different weight classes. So depending on what launcher you get, there are lighter characters where you can do more damage to them in launchers, and there are heavier characters that you can do less damage to them in launchers. So it's been normalized a bit. There used to be a lot more weight classes, but Just in general, the heavier, bigger characters, the Jeffreys, the Wolves, the Takas, the same launcher will give you less damage than against the small characters like Blaze, like Eileen, um, like Shun. Shun's kind of in a weird spot, but he's still considered a lighter character now. So yeah, you can look up the weight classes, but just know that the combos will change. They won't change much. They'll still be similar, but you can kind of squeeze out, a little more damage with the light characters. The nice thing about this game is that typically, if you learn your a basic combo, it'll work for the whole cast. So you don't have to worry about really learning character-specific combos till you get a little better, a little more comfortable, and then you can start with squeezing out those optimal combos for the light characters, and then trying to figure out what weird optimal combos might work for the heavy characters as well. But my recommendation would be start with the heavies, use combos that work for them, and 99% of the time, the heavy combo will work for everybody. Don't try to over-inundate yourself with trying to learn everything. So let's talk about punishes first. So I just did this move right. I am minus 15. And universally, the most universal punish in this game is going to be P plus K. Or sorry, PK. Most characters have a PK. It's your 12 frame punish. It's for the faster characters, it's 11 frame punish. But if you're not general rule of thumb, if somebody hits you with a string or a launcher, you're not sure what the frames are, just PK. And the nice thing about it is it leaves you at an advantage. It leaves you +4 for the mix-up. So typically you can do PK, go for a throw. Or PK, go for a counter hit launcher. And 9 times out of 10, this PK is going to hit you if you're not sure what the punish is. The fastest punish in the game would be a throw. That'd be a 10 frame throw. Throws are 10 frames. And a punish throw, it can still be broken. So I'm pretty sure that's the way it works. This is different than Tekken, and this is different than Street Fighter. A punish throw cannot be broken in either of those games, right? Only in Virtua Fighter. So I believe if I do this, yeah, I can still break it. So throws can always be broken in Virtua Fighter. Remember that. Even if it's a punish throw. At minus 15, he does a 10 frame throw. Breakable. I'm going to talk a little about throw breaks and everything, how that works. I have another video on throw breaks that's very comprehensive, and I hope you guys check that out soon. But I'm just going to do the basics right here. So, so throws. Every character's got 3 types of throws. You have your forward throws, your back throws, and your neutral throws. Throws are highs, so the throw animation can be ducked unless it's a low throw. So if somebody does a fuzzy, like we talked about earlier, or ducks, it won't be able to throw. So if I set Brad up to throw a reaction, where is it? And I crouch. No. He's gonna whiff the throw. It's very common to see people fuzzy guard throws. So if I'm at a disadvantage, a lot of times you'll see this. I'll tap down, I'll beat the throw. If you are a certain amount negative, then you can't actually fuzzy guard in time. I believe it's if you're -6. And this is a really important kind of aspect of Virtua Fighter, which I'll talk about Nitaku and fuzzy guarding and all that stuff in another video as well. But it's important to understand that at certain disadvantages, you don't have enough time to crouch. I think it takes 4 frames to crouch, something like that. And if you're at -6, then you don't have the frames to get out of a throw. So let's show you what that looks like really quick. So if I do jab, I have time to crouch. If I do kick, I have time to crouch. I'm -3. I believe if I do an elbow, I don't have time to crouch. There you go. So yeah, I crouched, but I still got thrown. So it's -5. So just keep that in mind. If you're wondering, like, oh, I fuzzy guard, I crouched, like, it's because you were -5. I thought it was -6, but I was wrong. I'm glad I tested that. Throws are very intuitive as well. So P plus G is your throw, but you can also, throw with all types of inputs, with quarter circle back inputs, quarter circle forward inputs. So I can do quarter circle forward throw. I can do forward throw. I can do a back throw. I can do quarter circle back. I can even do 360s. I don't even know if I can do 360 in this game. I'm on a hitbox, so anyway, you get the idea. There are 360 throws and everything. Generally there are 3 types of throws: forward throw, back throw, and neutral throw. How do you know the difference? Neutral throws are done by just pushing nothing and throw. But what decides whether it's a forward or back throw is the last input of the throw. So even if I do half circle forward, it's still a forward throw. If I do half circle back, it's a back throw. And the way you can kind of tell the difference, everyone's got a million throws, right? So how do you know? Typically, you can just see it. Like a forward throw will leave, once you're on the ground, it'll leave you in the same positioning you were at screen-wise. It'll just kind of push them forward a bit. So, for example, if I do my forward throw, I still end up, same positioning. Brad's still on the right side, I'm still on the left side. If I do a back throw, we swap positions. I threw him backward, right? Very intuitive. Same thing when it comes to ring outs and things like that. If I'm close to the ring, or if I want to push somebody to the corner, chances are I'm going to do a forward throw here because I want to keep them in the corner. If I've got my back to the ring, I'm going to want to do a back throw. This is also a back throw. Back throw. But there are exceptions. There are some forward throws that don't move forward. There are some back throws that look really weird. There are some neutral throws that throw back. Blaze's is a really good example. Blaze neutral throw is a suplex. But this is a neutral throw. Gets people all the time because they're trying to break back and I'll get the ring out with the neutral. So every character's got their specific things, but the grapplers tend to have better options and more options, obviously, and do more damage. How to break throws. We'll talk about that really quick. So remember way back when I mentioned that you can hold, while you're holding guard, you can push any button, punch or kick. In order to break throws, you have to be holding punch and guard, right? So if somebody tries to throw me and I'm holding punch and guard, I'll break the throw. But the reason there are 3 different types of throws, forward throws, back throws, and neutral throws, is because those are the 3 ways that throws can be broken. So you can only break a forward throw with a forward break. You can only break a neutral throw with a neutral break. You can only break a back throw with a back break. So if Brad does a forward throw on me, I have to be holding forward and guard and punch. If Brad tries to do a back throw on me, I have to be holding back, guard and punch. You can see my little... If Brad tries to do a neutral throw on me, I just have to be holding guard and punch. If I'm holding back or forward, it won't break the neutral throw. If you tap guard, if you kind of piano into punch from guard, it'll give you that guard, that throw break animation instead of, actually throwing. If I tap guard first and go into punch, I'll get a throw break sort of state. So let's have Brad throw me after a block. So Brad's just gonna neutral throw me, and I'm just gonna push guard and punch, and I'm gonna break this throw. Right. What I can also do here is I can guard and just keep punch held during that situation. So if he decides to punch me or throw me, watch my inputs. You see how I push guard first? So why this is useful is it's an option select, which I'm teaching you guys the first option select in Virtua Fighter. So I've said Brad to throw or attack, right? He's going to randomly do it. If I do this properly, and you can just practice this at home, I'm going to punch, and then I'm going to guard, but I'm going to push punch right after I'm holding guard, right? So I'm going to plink into guard punch. You guys see that, right? Guard punch. So I'll do punch, guard punch, and that'll beat everything. That'll block his punch, but it'll also break his throw. Cool. And this is like kind of VF defense 101. And why this is really important is you can do this all the time. Like a high-level player will tell you that they're never guarding without holding punch. They're just in the habit of guarding with guard punch. And it takes a little time to get used to it, but I have another video. If you guys watch that, it'll tell you how to practice that and the best way to do that. Personally, I never guard without having punch held down. That's just the way I play the game, and it helps because I'll just break throws I wasn't even trying to, you know. So keep that in mind. You can still just push both buttons and guard break, but eventually you want to be in the habit of plinking into this. And then there's one last tip I want to give you guys. It's most people do forward throws. Most people, their most damaging, their coolest looking throw is their forward throw. So if you're going to be doing guard punch, I'd recommend holding forward and doing guard punch. In this situation, Brad's doing a neutral throw, so I'm not going to be able to break it. But it's just a good example of like seeing these at work. But I would really recommend, if you're going to break a throw, try to break forward. Just because everyone's doing forward throw breaks. It's just the way the meta is, just because forward throws are the strongest. Cool.